We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcasts are at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Your Health is Your Choice, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I am your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful repeat guest is Dr. Greg Hammer. We're going to be talking about medicine, which obviously, because it's under Your Health here, but we've had him on here before. We had a wonderful conversation last time, and I do invite you to go back and listen to it again. But this time is the key to non-judgment. You know, the key to non-judgment, he said, is mindfulness. That means pausing before you react, pausing before you judge, understanding all that negativity that you're putting out is actually costing your health, and how we can actually live in a more non-judgmental state of mind, which is actually healthy for us in so many ways. He is an author. Gain without pain. Huh, that's rather nice, isn't it? Gain without pain, because most of the people say you have to feel the pain to get the gain. I like it this way around, much better. The Happiness Handbook for Health and Care Professionals. So let's just dive right into it. Welcome back, Greg. It's great to see you.
Great to be with you again, Sarah.
I love this whole approach of, we as human beings are incredibly judgmental, over ourselves, over everybody else, over everything. And that really isn't good for our psyche, is it? And when it's bad for our psyche, it's bad for our overall health. And I don't think people realize that. They kind of, the mind is here and the body is there. We're all connected. So you disrupt one thing, it's going to disrupt the rest.
Absolutely. Yes, there is only one thing there.
Mm-hmm.
But, one of my heroes, Sarah, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who is really a founder of mindfulness, defined mindfulness as awareness of the present moment on purpose, non-judgmentally.
Mm-hmm.
So being mindful means being non-judgmental.
Yes.
And the reason that is because when we judge things, which our minds want to do continuously, we're always evaluating things in our environment. We're comparing them. So one thing is better than the other, or more of this or less of that. And that's just the way our minds work. And when we do that, we're actually casting a veil over the observed. We're sort of seeing that thing, or maybe the whole world, with tinted glasses, let's say. And unfortunately, we have a negativity bias. We tend to remember the negative and forget about the positive. We all think this way. So if anybody out there thinks that they're alone in that, or that means they're more depressed than anybody else, it doesn't. It's just the way we all think. And therefore, that tint of the glasses through which we see the world tends to be colored in a negative hue. So we tend to see things negatively. And even when we see things in a positive light, that can mean that we're still seeing a veiled image and not seeing the object of our vision clearly and objectively. And if we want to be present and enjoy the moment, which is the only experience we ever have, is this moment, then we should do so objectively and see things as they are. And because our minds don't normally work that way, we have to have a plan. And that's what Dr. Kabat-Zinn meant by experiencing the present moment on purpose, non-judgmentally. Because if we don't do it on purpose, our minds go back to their default way of working, which is negative and judgmental.
I think what we're talking about here is programming, and the programming isn't just this lifetime, it's historical and goes back many, many centuries, to not believe, be it the naysayer of something, immediately to cast judgment. And I think that is just something that's in our DNA, but that doesn't mean we have to accept it. Being aware of it and knowing the tendency is there is mindfulness itself, and then choosing to look at things from a different perception. The glass is half empty, but it's half full of air. right? If we can always look that there's a full side to things instead of always an empty side to things, I think we start reprogramming our mind to choose to see the positive before that negative takes over.
I agree with you fully. And the good news is we're capable of doing that. Our brains have this wonderful quality called neuroplasticity, but it will take a plan, it takes
Yes.
intention. And the way we learn, and I've come to this conclusion after being a professor for 30 years at Stanford, is we learn in small increments with repetition.
Yes.
And that's what the GAIN program is meant to be. It's a brief meditation every morning. 3 minutes is all we need to commit. And over time, we can rewire our brains. We can rewire the way we think.
Yes.
And it's rather miraculous what we're capable of if we literally put our minds to it.
100% agree with you there. And, I always say the first leap is the first step. And when you're looking at, okay, just 3 minutes a day, I can do that. And then the thing is, you start noticing, well, I feel good in that 3 minutes. I'm going to increase that 3 minutes to 6. And then, I really feel good in the 6 minutes. I'm going to increase it to 9. And then it's like, well, why don't I make 23.9 hours of the day living in this state of being? Because let's face it, shoot happens. There's an awful lot of crap going on in the world and a lot of cruelty to one another. Humans are the cruelest species on this planet. Yet we don't have to be, because we can be one of the most loving set of beings up here. And that gives it a gain of choice and of deprogramming. And if you're mindful of what state of mind you're in now, in whatever, sometimes that environment around you just makes you want to go into defense or be pulled down or react because of what's happening around you. Take a breath, take 3 breaths, center yourself, be present, and choose how you want to react. And is it beneficial to you and anybody else around you?
Absolutely. And the fact is that our minds can be rewired without that much work.
Yes.
That's the idea.
No pain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, the GAIN practice is simply that we get up in the morning, we open the blinds, we do our morning hygiene routine, we find a comfortable place to sit. We get comfortable, we close our eyes, we get in touch with our breath. So we slowly inhale, pause, and slowly exhale. And we do that a few times. Slowing our breath down actually lowers our heart rate, lowers our blood pressure, and tends to focus us on what's happening right now. That is our breath. And then we go to a contemplation of that for which we're grateful.
Yes.
And we all have much for which to be grateful. Every morning, I'm grateful for my loved ones, and I sort of go through the list. I'm grateful for my relative health and wealth. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve my patients and their families. I'm grateful for being in a safe place. And then I go
Waking
to
up.
Yes, exactly. And then I go to acceptance because there is pain in life. It's there, but our suffering is really proportionate to our resistance to that pain.
Yeah.
So there's a formula in the book: suffering equals pain times resistance. And the opposite of resistance is acceptance. So if we can lower our resistance to something painful or fully accept it, the pain may be still there, but we don't suffer. And so we think of the object of this pain, and we actually, with our eyes closed and slowing our breath, we bring it in. We actually visualize opening our chest, opening our heart, and accepting and enveloping this pain with our heart, and asking ourselves the question, can I live with this pain forever? And when the answer is yes, we have merged with it. We have fully accepted it.
I'm going to talk firsthand on that because I have fibromyalgia and I've had it for 25 years. And it certainly has created some limitations. And, I've gone through the why me, the anger, what can I do about this, and tried every other modality of that. And I learned that partnering with it, it is a partner, and it's there to tell me when to slow down, when to nurture it, to pay attention to it, because that is my generator, right? That is what's going to keep me going. If I put too much stress on it, and if I don't pay attention to the signs, then that generator is going to shut down and I'm going to be flattened. So yeah, I have days that are more painful than others. But I have heart disease and cancer in my family, which my brother has just had a massive heart attack and load of stents going into his body. And I can be very grateful that I don't have that. This is something I'm going to have to manage for the rest of my life. But instead of resenting it, partner with it and go, what do you need? So that you can support me in what I need. So we just got to learn to love and nurture it so it can be kind to us.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to visualize these things.
Mm-hmm.
It can be your partner, it can be something that you bring into your heart so that it
Yes.
literally is part of us. We merge with it.
Right.
There's no separation. So there's no you there. It's all part of my heart now.
Yes.
But there, however you visualize it, the basis of the practice is all the same.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, these are very simple principles: gratitude, acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
intention. And that is because our default mode of thinking is negative
Yes.
and not present. That is, we're typically very distracted by the past and the future in ways that are maladaptive. And
Mm-hmm.
so our minds go to the past. And when you couple that with our negativity bias, you get shame, regret, and low self esteem.
Yeah.
And this is all of us. And with regard to the future, our distraction and overthinking of the future with our negativity bias leads to fear and anxiety. We catastrophize. What's the worst thing that might happen, even though it almost certainly won't come to be?
Right.
And then we move to non-judgment. And I want to share with you the image that I embrace and that I teach to my GAIN students. So we're sitting with our eyes closed. We're in touch with our breath. We've been through our gratitude, acceptance, intention, focusing on right now, even for 5 seconds during the I in GAIN or intention. We listen to the sounds. We feel the tingling at the soles of our feet. We feel the chair pushing up against our body. Then we move to non-judgment. And what I do and what I describe when I'm doing a narrated meditation with a group is we're thinking of the breath. We're in touch with the breath, the magic of the air coming in through our nose and filling our chest and just being released without effort. And then we visualize the earth, apparently just suspended in space.
Mm-hmm.
One of these beautiful NASA images. The
Yes.
earth is clearly neither good nor bad.
Mm-hmm.
The earth is simply what it is. And so we sort of settle on this image. The earth is neither good nor bad. I think it's fairly easy to get that
Mm-hmm.
when we see the earth. There's all kinds of little stuff going on the surface, but the planet is the planet. It's the third planet from the sun. It's just where it is, what it is. And when we see it that way, it's only logical to think of ourselves in the same way.
Yes.
I am simply the person that I am. I am neither good nor bad. I am simply what I am. And then we simplify that to I am.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Popeye
No,
said it. I am what I am.
so the I am kind of comes with the breath a
Yes.
few times slowly, and then we open our eyes slowly and we're ready to go out into the world. And this practice has only taken a few minutes, but we've just rewired our brain a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we go out, we get in our car, we're driving to work, and some guy driving on the right-hand side of us changes into our lane without using their turn signal, and we start to come to a bunch of conclusions.
Yeah.
We start to make a judgment or a number of judgments about this person. They're inconsiderate, this, that. And then a light bulb goes off, and we remember we just did our GAIN meditation, and we thought of the earth as being neither good nor bad. We thought of ourselves as being neither good nor bad. This other person is neither good nor bad. They simply are who they are. They are what they are. And when we do the practice daily, the more we do it, the longer we do it, days, weeks, months,
Yes.
the more that light bulb goes off. So when we're being ungrateful, when we're resisting that which is, when we are going into our default negative way of thinking instead of intentionally appreciating what we have and being positive. And when we're forming judgments that do us absolutely no good, a light bulb goes off. And I think you said in the beginning of the show, first you have to recognize it. Yes, that's that light bulb. I recognize that I'm judging.
Yes.
And we can have a bit of a laugh with ourselves and then shift back into non-judgment. It's really very easy.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that's not going to come up. It just means you're going to be aware of it and go, And I think there's a big word here too that I've just written my memoir. And in writing it, as a kind of writing it as an observer and looking at my life, and there's many, 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 many wrong directions that I have taken. But one has to look at it, would I be here today without those wrong directions? Can I persecute myself for those wrong choices? You choose what you know in that moment. And whether it's right or wrong, time will tell. And so, yeah, I did a lot of wrong things, but it led me to the right thing. And it's a forgiveness of self. And I think a great deal of our judgment comes from our own lack of forgiveness, our own persecution, and our own self judgment. And very often we're reflecting that judgment on others because really it's mirroring how we feel about ourselves.
Yes, I think we're naturally judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because there is a survival benefit. We look at Homo sapiens over the last 50,000 years. We need to be acutely aware of our environment. We need to be able to change directions. That is a good direction. That's a bad direction. We're used to analyzing everything and judging, and that is understandable. But it doesn't really help us.
Right.
Almost all of these judgments are really not productive, and our brains are kind of spinning around, expending a lot of energy, bringing ourselves some negativity, reinforcing our negativity bias for no currently meaningful or beneficial reason. Now, I think, as I'm sure you'll agree, it's important to discern.
Yes.
So I think I want to go in that direction. I think I want to spend time with this person. Spending time with that person sort of brings me down. That person is very judgmental. If I have lunch with that person's going to end up talking about our friends, often
Yes.
in a negative way. I discern that it's better for me to go have lunch with that other person.
Right.
So, this is discerning. It doesn't mean that we have to judge and say,
Yeah.
that person is catty, that person is a gossip, that person is bad. No, that person is just who they are. They're simply radiating what it is that they are. If they are not happy,
Yes.
they may be radiating signs of their own insecurity, their own unhappiness.
Yeah.
But we don't have to judge them negatively.
No, what you really want to do is you want to find your same vibe tribe. People that are on that same vibe as you, where you can feel when you step into that frequency, it is a more loving frequency. That love is the baseline, the heart line that is pumping away, and that you want to be around those kind of people because you support each other. You hear each other, you're there for each other, and this is the tribe that we want to be with. We can be that influence and that inspiration for others to follow, but you can't help someone else by making them change. That change has to be their choice. They have to come to their own conclusion of, maybe I am being too negative, maybe I'm looking at things the wrong way. And because very often that comes from the inspiration of others who have chosen to look at it a different way, and you see how their lives have changed. And you go, well, they've got to be doing something right. Surely there's something I can do now. But you can take the horse to water, you can't make it drink. However, you leave it there long enough and it's going to realize it's thirsty. So all we can do is be that inspiration, show the tools and the why to do it. And then when the people are ready, then they can partake.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. And just to kind of further the example of having lunch with that person who's sort of bad mouthing others, we can respond to that by smiling and saying, well, they're doing their best, or just smiling and not joining in.
Yes.
Perhaps responding with something positive about that person. And our lunch partner is eventually going to see, well, we seem like a happy person. That guy seems like a happy person, and
Mhm.
he's not judging other people.
Right.
Maybe there's something to that.
Yes. Be the example, right? Be the
Exactly.
example. You can't change people until they're willing to change, but you certainly could be that inspiration and that example. And when they see, it's when Harry met Sally, I'll have what she's having, right? When you see people being happy, yeah, it is like, well, what are they doing to be happy? And they seem to be consistently happy, and they seem to be consistently caring, and it doesn't matter who attacks them. They they brush it off, or they smile it off, or they just remove themselves. But I react. Why do I react and they don't react? And that, I think, the more people start asking themselves that question, the more and more they're willing to actually hear the answers. Because it's not an exterior thing. It is all an inside thing. It's the aligning of your heart, soul, and spirit in your body. Your wellness or your dis-ease in your body can create a disease if you're constantly in that state of negativity. So, with the motto water demonstration, the ignored water, the loved water, and the negative water, and how it all changes. We're 70% water. So let's be kind to our waters, because that's what serves our body, and it serves our mind, it serves our spirit. So I think somewhere along the line, we've got to stop looking for someone else to fix everything and realize that is a perception. It's our choice and how we choose to see life. And when we choose to change the dial and see it differently from a place of gratitude and a positive attitude, we start to see the beauty that's all around us and the beautiful people that are all around us. And that's the field we want to be in.
Yes, we should meet for lunch, Sarah, because you're the kind of person I'd like to have lunch with.
Not to say that I don't address the negative things going on in the world, because it's not, a lot of people think that by stepping into the state of mind that you're going la 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 to everything else. No, you're looking at it for what it is. And if you're powerless to do anything about it, what you can do is send loving vibrations that way, to empower the solution, to empower people who are suffering to not suffer. We can step up in whatever way we can step up. Um, a lot of people who step up into that light, they start getting very depressed because they feel powerless to help everybody. I feel like this now. I want to help everybody. I want everybody to feel like I do. And it's like, it's not for you to fix the world. It's you to inspire the people that are in your world to want to fix themselves.
Well, you just went to the A in gain, which is in terms of pretending everything's okay and trying to block out the painful vibrations. No, those painful vibrations affect all of us. We all suffer from what's happening in Ukraine.
Yes.
We all experience the severe food shortage around the world. We all experience the pain of the earth and
Mm-hmm.
climate change. So we have a shared existence and a shared pain. And life has pain.
Yes.
We've all lost loved ones. We've all
Being heard.
experienced these painful
Yes.
things,
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic, people
Mm-hmm.
who have perished in the pandemic alone in their hospital rooms because
Yes.
their families couldn't be there for them. So we're not pretending that these things don't exist.
Right.
In fact, we're committing a quarter of our gain meditation
Mm.
to actually focusing on those things so that we can open our hearts and let them in very intentionally.
Yes. I have another channel, supporting the supporters, and what I find is those supporters are people that have been through an enormous amount of pain, but they chose a different path. They chose not to be the victims. They chose to help other people liberate themselves, and at great expense to themselves in many ways, physical, emotional, financial. They're there to support others, and I have such admiration for them for that. I actually have a show up myself this week on sorrow and how easy it is to get drowned by the sorrow, especially if you're more empathic, a little bit like me. I've definitely been feeling it in the last week with, the sorrow of the Queen. Whether you like the royal family or not, people loved who the Queen was because of her tenacity, her resilience, her humor, and the sheer fact, 70 years of rule. How many people can they say they did 70 years of anything? So you get that feeling of sorrow, and it's very, very easy for the rabbit hole to open up and suck you in. And at those times, that's when you need to love and nurture yourself. Give yourself that love and nurturing. But one of the best love and nurturings you can do is go and do something for someone else.
Absolutely. Well, I think, we're in full agreement that non-judgment is essential to happiness,
It
just
is.
as gratitude is essential to happiness. You'll find people who are poor and happy, people who may be physically disabled and happy, but you'll never see somebody who's ungrateful and happy.
No.
You'll never see somebody who fails to accept the pain in life who is happy. You'll never see somebody who's happy and not being purposeful.
Right.
And finally, you'll never see someone who's happy and very judgmental.
It doesn't do, it just, it's oil and water, isn't it? It just doesn't blend together. The hate and love, is I will disapprove of certain actions, but to go to hate is who that is judgment. When we step into hate, it's judgment. I dislike because I find, the choice is to be one to hurt others. But if you go into the hate thing, feeding that vibration, even in the words that we say, because the words that we speak out to others, and especially the words that we speak to ourselves, has an enormous impact on us, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Our words are simply a manifestation of our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think negatively, when we are judgmental, we are reinforcing those neural pathways in our brain that support those thoughts. And to the contrary, if we practice gain or we practice non-judgment, we are reinforcing other neural pathways. And those may be neural pathways that are not well established. But the good news is, by sitting with those thoughts, we reinforce those pathways over time. And that's what neuroplasticity is. And we are all capable of having a change in the way we think simply by practicing the right way to think.
As a medical man, you must see a great deal with patients of those. I mean, there's initial shock when people get a diagnosis. There are so many people that actually die from the diagnosis and not the disease that they've got, because they kind of get into shock, fear, everything else, and it just kind of give up. But then there's the other people that go, I've got what? Okay, roll up the sleeves, face on. This isn't going to beat me. I'm going to do everything I can to enjoy life. Yeah, I have somebody on last week. He was given, the doctors put him on a medication for a liver problem, and it ended up the actual medication gave him cancer of the liver. And so he just decided, they gave him 6 months to live, and it's now 4 years later, and he decided to travel and live and enjoy life. And, and he's cancer free now. Not everybody can do that. Very often we need the medical help along with it. But if your attitude is one of doomsday, why me? I'm the victim, as opposed to this is just another challenge in life. What do I have to do to beat this and come out through the other side? You must see it a great deal in your patients.
Well, what you've described is resistance.
Yeah.
And suffering equals pain times resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So we may have cancer, but the more we resist it, the more it causes suffering.
Yeah.
And the more we resist it, the more stressed we are.
Yes.
So chronic stress, which is something that results in burnout, which is a hot topic these days,
Yes.
because there's so much chronic stress in life at its best. But I think the last 3 or 4 years have been
It's been on steroids. Yeah.
Yes, chronically stressful
Yeah.
for almost everyone.
Yeah.
And stress has suppressive effects on the immune system. It causes adverse effects on our cardiovascular health. It certainly disrupts our sleep. And in the book, I have chapters on sleep, exercise, and nutrition, which are really the foundations, the tripod on which our physical health rests. And when we are underslept and fatigued, we enter this sort of self-propagating negative cycle of our physical presence. chronic stress from resistance causes poor sleep. Poor sleep causes fatigue. When we're fatigued, we tend to pick up sugary foods or fatty so-called comfort foods that give us a bit of a boost temporarily, and then we crash. And when we're fatigued, our exercise habits deteriorate, and then we feel badly about ourselves, and then we sleep less well, and then we eat more poorly, and then we fail to exercise. Exactly. And so
Cycle keeps going on and on and on. Yeah.
that's right. So sleep, exercise, and nutrition are fundamental to our health and stress reduction. And as far as our emotional, spiritual health, I think the gain elements, all of which are empirically part of, I think, all positive ways of thinking and being.
Yeah.
So these are basic principles, certainly not something that you or I invented.
No.
But they
Also
seem
common
to be
sense.
exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, the A in gain is acceptance, and really it's a reiteration of the serenity prayer.
Right.
As you were saying, somebody who's got a terrible diagnosis, first they have to discern what they can change and what they can't change. And then hopefully they have the wisdom to accept what they cannot change
Yes.
and focus on what they can change.
Yes.
And what they can change is getting on a positive path that will reduce their own stress, their own resistance, and lowering their stress and resistance will have positive effects on their immune system, on their cardiovascular system, on their hormone system, on their sleep, exercise, and nutrition. So that's what we can do. And the A in acceptance, the A in gain rather, is simply a reiteration of that, which the serenity prayer articulates.
Right.
So here's a Christian concept, and I would put forth that each of the gain elements is really well documented throughout history in positive philosophies and other human practices, be they religious or non-religious.
Right, exactly. I mean, the religious and the spiritual, pagan, Catholic, whatever you want to do, there's a fundamental common sense there. And it's putting that common sense into practice. I was having breakfast with someone this morning. We got talking about fear, and we actually got talking. I don't know how we came around, but like the Holocaust, and how you had a few soldiers and many people absolutely living in fear, nobody taking them on, where as a mass they could have taken them on, but they were so crippled by the fear, and she didn't understand it. And I said, well, when you're in a state of fear, it locks you up. It locks your oxygen to your brain, it locks your body, everything in your body tightens up. And when you're in that state of fear, you can't think clearly. There is no chi, energy running through your body to clarify and give you that ability to understand what you're empowered to do, because you're so locked in the fear, and then you become the victim of it. And people don't understand, why don't they fight back? And when you're in that state of fear, you can't fight back because you're so locked in. We've got people that have been so afraid in the last 2.5, 3 years, actually probably going back a little bit further with all the disruption in the world. And they're so locked in the fear, they don't know how to get out of it. Unclench the fists, take the deep breaths, align the chakras, allow the breath to come through your body, let the energy come through your body. You'll just see your body just go, ah. But it's very difficult to talk to someone when they're in that state of fear to let go, let go.
Yeah. I think all we can do at times is simply represent that acceptance.
Yes.
And I think we feed off each other's energy. So you and I are having lunch, or in your case, breakfast this morning together. I think just sharing that common experience with someone who is accepting, grateful, intentional, non-judgmental has a positive effect on the others who are sharing that space. And that's my particular mission in life. And I have many patients who, since I do pediatric intensive care and cardiac anesthesia, who have congenital anomalies. They may be, have an immune deficiency. They may have an incurable cardiovascular disorder. And there's really nothing I can do for them at times other than simply be present with the family.
Yes.
And the patient, him or herself. And so that has become my focus. I think that's something that comes with decades of experience in healthcare. You realize you can't fix everything. Okay, so what's my role here?
To
Well, my
care.
residents and fellows have explained everything to the patient and their family already. They have questions for me. I'm happy to field them. But in the meantime, what I can do is be that person who's just present in the room.
It shows that what do we want at that point? We want to know there's people around us that care. You may be powerless. This is the writing on the wall. There is no going back from this. This is their exit. And knowing it's their exit, how can you make it a loving exit? We celebrate birth. We don't celebrate death. And when we look at death as just the end of chapter, and the spirit will go on and look at all the what this person has given you through life. And in gratitude and celebration of that, you're actually sending them on their journey in peace, and you're finding that peace with yourself. And if you've got somebody around you like yourself that is calm and just being present and just saying, I'm there for you, you're giving them the strength and the courage to let go and let this person go peacefully.
Very well put.
Peace, that is a word that gets thrown around. And as I've said, we don't find peace out until we find it within. And that peace within is our equilibrium. Are we well balanced inside? Are we feeding the right energies? You know, as I said, negative will come up, negative situations will come up. What are you empowered to do about it? What you're not empowered to do about it? Wish it well and walk away. Don't take it on. This is always about being mindful to be in balance with your psyche, because your psyche is going to serve your body, and it's keeping everything in that nice flow. It's not rigid. It's a kind of a beautiful fluid flow that you live in, and it makes you more adaptable to a situation if you're not rigid, because you can just twist that flow and go off into another direction without feeling panicked about it.
Yes, well put. Exactly.
Getting people, you know, understanding how they can gain if they step into mindfulness, which is stepping into presence and being acknowledging where you are right now. And a lot of it is stopping the chatter, right? You know, switch off the chatter, which is going on there. How do you focus in on something else that dims the chatter or switches it off? And that is, as you said, your 3 minutes, and then increasing. The more you practice it, the more it's going to be mainstream for you and be something that you can always fall back on at times of stress, because it's not something you do, it's something you become.
Absolutely. Well, I think that even if the game practice in this case is just done 3 minutes a day,
Mhm.
doesn't have to get longer. What happens is we start with the breath and we go through the gain elements and then we return to the focus on the breath. When I'm feeling anxious or something is getting on my nerves or I'm feeling negative, I simply return to the breath.
Mm.
Simply in the next breath, focus on that breath, the in breath, the air coming through my nose and
Mm.
pausing as it fills my chest and fills my body. I feel my body expanding. And then just allowing it to be released
Yeah.
without any energy expenditure.
Mm.
That very process causes my neural connections to lead me toward gratitude, acceptance, intention, and non-judgment, because that's the practice that I do every morning,
Mm-hmm.
connected with that breath. So again,
Put
this
you on
is
the right channel.
yes, and it's
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah.
So, I'm certainly not saying or representing that I can go there immediately every time, but the wonderful thing about the brain is that these new patterns can be established, and it's almost like just kind of getting on that little train.
Mm-hmm.
You just become aware of the opportunity and just step on it. The door is always open and it's moving at a pace we can always get on.
Yeah.
And you step on it, and then the pattern becomes self-fulfilling. So it starts with, oh, I'm aggravated, I'm stuck in traffic. I'm going to return to the breath. So I focus on the in breath, the pause, and the release. And gratitude comes. acceptance comes, intention comes, non-judgment comes. So this is just a matter of reinforcing those neural connections, these pathways that we can continue to carve into our way of thinking and being. It's not difficult, and the elements are very intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
So, why do we resist doing things that we know are good for us?
I don't know.
I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but I
And I think
think,
that's old programming. That is definitely old programming, right?
yes, and I think we believe we don't deserve to be happy.
Right. And that again is the dictation that we've had from society for so long. Society keeps dictating to us what will make us popular, what will make us liked, where our sense of value is. And it's an illusion, and it's delusional. Because it keeps raising, nobody can live up that standard, not without making themselves so vulnerable in the collapse and the fall. And it's this expectation that we put on other people. But when that expectation is then reflected on you, oh no, not me, them, not me, them. Oh, I can't live up to that. I'm not worthy. Right. And it's like, where did this come from? I mean, somewhere along the line, use common sense. Please use common sense. We put people up on a pedestal. Should they do one thing we think is wrong, we tear that pedestal down and tear them to shreds. What does that say about us? Not them. They're just being human beings who've maybe made a wrong move or owned up to something. If we're tearing them to shreds, that is on us. Where's our
Absolutely.
compassion?
And again, that's all about being judgmental.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And I think that comes from an insecurity as well.
Of course. I think we need to recognize that happiness is our true nature.
Yeah.
It has simply become veiled by thousands of years of evolution and establishing these neural patterns in our brains that guide us toward thinking in these unhealthy ways. Yeah. They may, in some cases, be ways of thinking that have an evolutionary benefit. For example, 50,000 years ago, our forebears were cave dwellers. Maybe they're sitting in a cave trying to keep the fire going, and they're always worried about the worst thing that can happen. There could be a saber-toothed tiger lurking right outside the mouth of the cave. That fear, that projection into the future, that thinking of the worst thing that can happen, the catastrophizing, may have actually been adaptive at that time. And so that way of thinking led to more procreation, longer life, more offspring, and this sort of had an evolutionary benefit for the species.
Right.
However, as our society and our culture and the world have changed so dramatically in the last decade, in the last century, certainly in the last millennium, we no longer have to be constantly thinking of a saber-toothed tiger lurking outside the cave. We don't have to think of the worst thing that can happen unless you're in an area where that might be still adaptive, like in my medical practice. I do want to think of the worst thing that can happen because I want to
you're
make
preventing
sure
it. You're wanting to prevent it. Yes.
But in general, in our lives, we don't really have to think of the worst thing that can happen, and we don't have to make any kind of provisions for such a thing happening.
You can weigh up your options. Now, if I do this, this could happen. If I do that, that could happen, and decide which is the lesser or which are you more equipped to deal with. It's good to have some projections of what to expect. But as I said, don't perceive that there is a tiger out there. Just like, have you got in your arsenal, in your backpack, the right instrument to face that tiger should you come across them, right? So it is, what do we have within us that we can face any catastrophe external and not lose the essence of who we are, but step more into our love and light.
I agree. I think let's be discerning.
Yeah.
So it's adaptive to think about the future to the extent that we plan to put bread on the table. We plan to have wonderful times with our loved ones. But beyond that, focusing on the future with our negativity bias typically brings fear and anxiety. It's adaptive to think about the past to the extent that we learn from our mistakes and we savor our wonderful memories. Much beyond that, most of the time, overthinking the past goes to maladaptive ways of thinking that
Yeah,
generate fear, rather, that generate shame, regret, and low self-esteem.
right.
So let's have that little light bulb that goes off and reminds us to be discerning about our thought processes. Is this a maladaptive way to think, or is it an adaptive way to think?
Hmm.
And then we can begin to steer ourselves in a more positive direction.
As to happiness, I have an 18-month-old grandson, and to watch him being happy at play in his discovery, the things that just light up his life and bring out that beautiful giggle. It is like, why would I want to do anything that's going to stop that beautiful music that comes out of him? And yet, as we get older, we kind of seem to have to conform, conform, conform. And it chips away at our happiness, and it chips away at our self value. And it chips away that, well, you've got to be this to be loved or to be important. We have to change everything across the board, our education, our parenting skills, our religious approach to things, where it is happiness and love are one. And what we want to do in everybody is make them as happy in that love of life, of who they are, what they can be, and nurture that instead of dictating what they should be, which is going to make them unhappy. Yeah, so sorry, folks, we had a little interruption. That's the internet for you. It is retrograde. So happiness is something that we are all deserving of. When we are in a state of happiness, we are always in a state of exploration and wonderment, and we're always in a state of creativity. When things happen to us to put a blockage in that happiness, something that we have to look at, don't look at it happening to you, but happening for you. What can you become out of this? What strength, what abilities can you learn from this that can take you further on your journey?
Beautifully put.
Our lives are up to us. And I think for so long, we've given our lives up to everybody else as a society for hundreds or thousands of years. The rulers dictated how we should live, religion dictated, education dictated, society's employment dictated who we should be, even who we should marry and 2.2 children, the picket fence and all of that. And I think what we're learning now is this is an individual thing, your life. Your life is up to you. It is up to how you nurture and feed and love yourself, because the more you do, the more you can nurture and feed everyone else. And that in that acceptance and love of yourself, you are living on a beautiful vibration of frequency that essence of you goes out and inspires other people. And the more of us that can do that, embrace our own beautiful instrument, the more we're going to make far better orchestras out there that in sync, that can create that symphony that embraces everybody. So we're not just doing it for ourselves, are we? We're doing it for a better society.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think the good news that we all need to remember is that we can rewire our brains to be more present.
Yeah.
And we need a plan. We need to be intentional about it. And we can learn to be more grateful, more accepting, more purposeful, and more non-judgmental. It's within us.
Yes.
We simply have to get on that train. And again, I think a very short practice devoting ourselves to rewiring our brains every day can work miracles over time.
Changes our perception, changes what we feed, changes what we react to. It puts us on a path that is more serving to ourselves, so therefore more serving to others. Just that little shift, that little shift, that little shift, because we start to see the beauty in the world, all the possibilities that are there. And it invites us to want to be a part of it. So something so little, as I said, the biggest leap you'll take is the first step. Something so little as that first step of 3 minutes a day, right? Where's the sacrifice of
Absolutely.
3 minutes a day, folks? and maintaining the practice, not like one day, well, this didn't do anything. No, it is, you've got so much to undo. So it has to be a consistent practice to do, and even other things that are invited for you to do in order for you to step into this light. It's not just suddenly a switchboard and hallelujah, like a downloadable app. right?
No, we didn't get this way overnight. We're not going to change the way we think overnight either. But, the good news is that it's not particularly difficult. It just takes a plan.
And you've got the plan in your book. So how do people get the book? It's Gain Without Pain, the Happiness Handbook for Health and Core Professionals and Care Professionals. How do people get the book? And also, how do they find you?
Sarah, they can just go to my website, which is greghammermd.com, GregHammerMD.com, all lowercase. There are links to lots of media. Hopefully our chat will be on there. And there's a link to the book there, as well as lots of other interesting information. But thank you for that.
And of course, you're on Amazon, and please come back and listen to his show previously. It'll be on his show pages. Both shows will be on the show pages. All you have to put in is Greg Hammer on selfdiscoverymedia.com in the search engine. And, thank you for coming back and sharing. We need this, right? This is the medicine we need right now. It isn't about another drug or another this or another that. It is about how do we step into our mindfulness? How do we release ourselves from the pain and the anguish and the sorrow and the unsureness, and how do we empower ourselves? And just a simple practice of 3 minutes a day can set you on the right path. So thank you for writing the book, and thank you for showing people the way forward.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
And with you too. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Remember, folks, there's always an answer. Are you willing to participate? Because it is your responsibility to partake in your own life. It's not somebody else's. When somebody's got the tools for you to help you take those first steps, you're going to see how much better your life will be, when therefore how much better your life will be around you. Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or self-discovery-media/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations, or follow us on Patreon and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.